And on behalf of the BPEP Planning Council, it's my honor to congratulate the ACLU of Pittsburgh, the ACLU of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania State Conference of Branches, Pittsburgh branch in NAACP, League of Women Voters of Pittsburgh, League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania, for their leadership, their outstanding work in bringing some much needed justice to a truly unjust piece of legislation. Pennsylvania's new voter ID law. It has long been the position of the Black Political Empowerment Project and that of many of our partners and our non-partisan political partners throughout Pennsylvania that the Commonwealth's voter ID bill would, if implemented, block many registered voters of Pennsylvania of their opportunity and indeed their right to vote by regular ballot for the presidential candidate of their choice. According to BPEP's Voting Rights Committee organizer Celeste Taylor, there were a total of 9 changes in the voter ID's legislation's rollout. Several attempts were made on behalf of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to liberalize the requirements. But what we were all left with throughout the Commonwealth was confusion and misunderstanding and misinterpretations as to what indeed was required. Even as recently as last week, BPEP was about to mail information to approximately 160 African-American based churches and mosques, only to learn that the printing that we had just completed had to be thrown out because there was yet another update in the requirements for this dreadful piece of legislation. We also applaud Commonwealth Court Judge Robert Simpson for having the wisdom to recognize that a political catastrophe was about to happen. Though his ruling is a temporary one, it is one that was crucial to the protection of voting rights for Pennsylvania voters for this presidential election. We must also keep in mind that the President of the United States just happens to be the most powerful political leader on the planet. And every U.S. citizen must have the opportunity to actively and fully participate in the selection process of that U.S. and world leader. In the 16-page order from the Commonwealth Court, the most important to us, to many of us at this time, are these words, quote, "It is ordered and decreed as follows. Petitioner's application for preliminary injunction is granted." Based on the foregoing supplemental determination, the respondents and their agents and officers are hereby preliminary enjoined from requiring that a registered elector must apply for a PIN.dot product prior to the elector seeking insurance, or the issuance, I should say, of a free DOS ID. Robert Simpson, Judge. It is my pleasure as the chairman of BPEP, as an African American, as a citizen of Pennsylvania, to cross out, you must have a photo ID to vote on November 6th. You can cross too, man. All right, I bought this pen special for that moment. It's called a BPEP moment. It's called an NAACP moment, ACLU moment, League of Women, everybody's moment. BPEP's work, and that of many of our partners, will focus now on continuing our voter registration efforts, our election protection, and that of helping to guarantee a huge voter turnout from the November 6, 2012 presidential election. We're going to hear from the co-president, new president of the League of Women Voters, who's been the partner with BPEP, and we've been their partner on many occasions, Eileen Olmstead, co-president, League of Women Voters of Greater Pittsburgh. Give her a big welcome.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I'm delighted to be here. I'd like to reiterate the words of the League of Women Voters Pennsylvania President Olivia Thorne, who's been on the forefront of this battle since it began. Quote, "We are pleased with the decision of the court. The League is grateful for the time and effort extended by compelling witnesses whose stories represented the impact of this law on our cherished right to vote. For now, we will continue to register new voters and provide nonpartisan candidate information through debates and our voters' guides." Here in Pittsburgh, we are delighted that the League can now focus its energy and volunteer efforts on educating the voter regarding important issues of the day and setting up candidate forums for the upcoming elections. We have invited candidates for forums and will set final dates shortly. Look for announcements on the League's webpage and in the press for dates and places of candidate forums. We are also collecting information for our voters' guide to be published in the New Pittsburgh Courier on October 24th. This information about the candidates may be used by voters to get facts that they need for voting decisions. The online version will be available on both smartvoter.org, our online voters guide webpage, and on the League of Women Voters of Greater Pittsburgh website. To reduce confusion and encourage participation of this important election, the League urges state and county officials to alert all registered voters that photo ID will not be required in the November election, with one major exception. If you are newly registered first-time voter or have re-registered because of a change of address or party affiliation, you will still have to present some form of identification when you go to vote. That will not need to be a photo ID, but should have your address on it. Finally, an alert. Voter registration deadline is next Tuesday, October 9th. Use it. Don't lose it.
All right. We want to wish her well in her new position as co-president. I've talked to her former co-president just a couple times last night, so we've had a great relationship. We want to turn it over to the first vice president of the NACP Pittsburgh branch so they can share the work that the local branch and the state council branches have done on this very important issue. Connie Parker.
I don't want to be redundant of some of the things that have already been spoken about here, but these organizations should certainly be congratulated for all the tireless work that they have done. They have in the forefront of many things to get the vote out. And believe me, BPEP will be in the forefront of getting you also to the polls. There's been tireless work by the NAACP. We had from national, the leadership under Celeste Taylor, getting out the vote, getting people registered. This will not stop. This will not stop. We will get you to the polls. No one will break our civil rights in the state of Pennsylvania. Thank you.
We hear from one of the leaders, the former vice president of PEN, Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, formerly Pittsburgh Interfaith Impact Network. My hand to Reverend David Thornton, the pastor of my mom's old church, Grace Memorial Presbyterian Church.
Thank you, Brother Stevens. It is certainly good to be a part of this celebration today, and it's an understatement to say that we are very pleased with the judge's decision. As has already been said, I stand here representing the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network. Presently, the vice president is Brother Jonathan Mayo, who is also here with us today. Glad that he can be here. And as the pastor of Grace, who happens to also be a member of PEN, I'm very thankful for partnerships and collaborations. I would certainly be remiss in these few moments that I have to speak if I did not lift up the hard work that not only Grace Memorial Presbyterian Church, but other churches, mosques, and synagogues have done to both support what the ACLU was doing to make sure that this was not going to go through, but at the same time to make sure that just in case we did have to show these IDs, to push people to get qualified to vote. So there was a two-pronged effort, and I want to lift up not only PEN today, but also other strong collaborative workers such as One Pittsburgh, as well as Pittsburgh United. Had it not been for constituents in these organizations who were really literally on the ground, going to all kinds of DMVs, finding plaintiffs that we could lift up as being potentially enfranchised had this gone through, had it not been for those efforts, we might not be experiencing what we're experiencing today. So I'm very thankful for this decision by the judge, and we go forth now knowing that in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, everybody has the right to vote, and it's going to remain that way. Thank you very much.
We'd like to have E. Richard Phipps speak on behalf of the Western Pennsylvania Black Political Assembly and also the Alleghanians LTD. E. Richard Phipps.
Thank you, Tim. I don't want to rehash what has already been stated here. However, I want to make a prediction. This is a prediction I had made earlier on one of the talk shows, and the host of that show seemed to disagree with me. My prediction is that this is going to be the last we hear of this voter ID. The reason I'm saying that, they're saying, okay, it's going to be implemented in the next election. The next election, Mitt Romney won't be running for election. Why do I say that? Mr. Tarzi has told you that the purpose of this bill was to get him elected. If he's no longer running, I don't think he's going to run in the primary for mayor of Pittsburgh or anything of that nature, so it won't be necessary to have this photo ID. This is the last we're going to hear of it. Let me explain something. This bill was passed originally back in March, prior to the last primary we had. And during that primary, what were we told? It's not necessary to enforce this law at this time.
That's correct.
Why? That was a primary where you were picking your candidates to run in your general election. So there was no threat to this Republican nominee for the President of the United States. So if it wasn't necessary to have it at that primary, it's not going to be necessary to have it in the future, unless an incompetent candidate is put forth for an election and that party feels that the only way they can get that person elected is through these tactics that are un-American, that are an insult to those of us who go out and vote and try to be good citizens of this country. So I'm going to say it again. I predict that we've heard the last of the voter ID bill. There won't be any push to get it implemented for the next primary. We are going to do as the president or the CEO of BPEP have done. We're going to just cross it off our list.
Do we have a representative of One Pittsburgh?
That's me.
Introduce yourself. I'll let you.
My name is Alice Thompson. I'm an organizer with One Pittsburgh. I'm going to be really brief. I want to thank all these amazing organizations for all of the work that you've done. PIN, Pittsburgh United, ACLU, NAACP. We would not be where we are right now without the work of the people in those offices. I had the weird privilege of being able to testify in court against this law last Thursday.
Right. You must have been
Well, it wasn't just me, but it was, you know, I'm just really so amazed that we won this battle, and that the battle is not over by any means. And I think that what's really important now is that we use the momentum that we've gathered from this to push and make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. Because they can't stop our vote.
That's right. You want to briefly share what you shared with them that helped lead to this great decision?
Yeah, sure. I was assisting a woman who needed to get her voter's ID. She couldn't get her photo ID because she didn't have 2 proofs of residence. She's never had an ID before. And we went to the DMV a total of 3 times. The first time we went, they told her that they were no longer issuing the free voter ID. It was just a PennDOT worker that told her that, and we were just completely flabbergasted by that. There was just no reason why anyone should say that. It was, I mean, they're still issuing the ID today. So, and then we went back 2 more times before we actually got the ID. We had to wait. We had to get the right forms for ourselves. They didn't have them there. And when I asked to get the forms, they actually told me that she didn't need them, which I knew to be false. So there's just been a lot of misinformation, a lot of misunderstanding, and a lot of what we're going to have to do now is make sure that we are fixing all of that misunderstanding. We have to get in and tell everybody, you know, we don't need the IDs now. We might need them in the future. We need to just make sure that people are understanding that. So yeah, the battle is not over by any means, and we can congratulate ourselves now, but we got to keep going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is Action United represented here? Okay, they were part of this. But I wanted to bring up Rich Fitzgerald will speak in a moment. You okay for a couple minutes? Yeah. Okay, good. We wanted to bring up Dean Williams. Dean had a phenomenal press conference. Cheryl Russell, would you please come forward with the head of the Hill House, Cheryl Hall Russell. Dean, would you come over? Dean is head of the formerly convicted citizens project, and he had a phenomenal press conference down at City Hall the other day, helping move some significant legislation for the formerly convicted. It was all tied in, all of our work. We need to support each other and what's going on. I wanted him to share your reaction to the voter ID being enjoined at this moment for this election.
My name is Dean Williams. I'm the director of Formerly Convicted Citizens Project, and we're primarily a public policy organization working to get legislation for people with criminal records so that they can move beyond those criminal records. And during the period of time of which we've been holding expungement and pardon workshops, we've been making sure that people were aware of what they needed to do to get voter IDs, and we've been rounding the troops up to make sure that they were prepared to vote. So I'm sure that a lot of people are hearing about this now, and they're excited about the fact that they don't have to have the IDs, but in case they needed the IDs, we have people positioned so that they would be able to vote. And, I just want to congratulate all of us.
I never stood behind Dean. He's a big guy. Goodness gracious. I used to look like that. Cheryl Hall Russell, would you welcome us? Cheryl is the host of this building, of course, the relatively new president and CEO. Welcome her. And as one of the leaders of our key social service agencies, I know you have a commitment to voting in each and every election. Would you just share a moment, just informally? I know you weren't coming to speak,
okay,
but you are our anchor agency here.
One of the things that I shared with you when I first got here was how important it was to ensure that everybody had that right to vote. I shared a story that I have a 106-year-old grandmother who got her first voter's registration card in my lifetime in the 70s because of the fight and the struggle that she had to go through in her home state to vote. And so this is a very personal matter for me. I understand the number of people, and she's still voting. She'll be 107 in February.
Wow.
And so it is very, very important. So when we hear about how that's too low. When we hear about how easy it's going to be to get people to get ID, and how I think about her, and I think about how not easy it would be to get ID for people that age, and that she's not lazy, she's not any of the things that people have been accused of being, who are not getting their registration. She's a dedicated American who should not have her vote suppressed in any manner. And so this is very personal, and it's very important to me to stand behind her. Yes.
Does she have a person?
No.
See that? This is how ludicrous this bill is. And let me share that while you're still standing.
Yes.
I had the honor of being in the company of our former mayor a couple of days ago because of the work of our county exec, people who worked with him to try and get around this bill, make it a little easier. They were doing the photo IDs at Community College in Homewood, and we thank Mr. Fitzgerald for his wisdom and his team to try and get around this. But you know who was there was Sophie Maslow. At 94, she had to get someone to bring her down to the Homewood campus of CCAC to make sure she had photo ID. Now, how ludicrous is that? Obviously, anybody in the polling place would know who Sophie Maslow was. And even though she's been out of office for several years, at least half of Pittsburgh still knows who Sophie Maslow is. And if you remember, Bob O'Connor's wife, Judy O'Connor, had an O missing, and she had to figure out what to do with that. So it shows you how ludicrous the bill was in the very first place. So your story is very powerful. And we're going to ask Reverend Ware that we're going to bring up. Where's you okay for a few minutes? We want to bring you up at the end. Reverend Ware has worked with me, and I've worked with him. He's a key representative of the African Methodist Episcopal Church in the Pittsburgh District. He's been given a key responsibility here, which is sharing your wisdom and what we're doing.
We're all obviously very happy with the judge's ruling on the voter ID. I'd like us to focus on the task before us. Yes. We have said a lot about what that meant and that impact on not requiring ID, but if we don't get people registered and get them out to the polls, that decision will have no value. So I know that in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the Pittsburgh Annual Conference, we are organizing churches and vans to get people to the polls. We are organizing and collaborating with the organizations here, because without getting people registered and getting them out on election day, all the hard work that's been done is for nothing. People have given their blood for the right to vote. I've been quoting this for the last 2 months. Kingsley House had a saying on their board in front of the building at East Liberty. Said, if your vote is not important, why are they trying to steal it?
That's right.
When people don't steal something is of no value.
That's right.
We need to understand the value of each and every vote, and we need to, now that that is behind us, focus our energy on getting people registered and organizing a turnout. We need to have the greatest turnout that's ever taken place in Pennsylvania. So we don't have to divide our energy with that issue. We need to focus on going forward, because we know what's at stake. So on behalf of the Bishop McKinley Young and the Pittsburgh Annual Conference of the AME Church, I want to congratulate and thank all those who've worked hard, but let's not lose focus on what the prize is. November 6th, get out and vote. Thank you.
Harry Mosley of H. Philip Randolph and Jamal Craig of United Steelworkers, would you please come forward?
Yeah, how you doing? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kahari Mosley, Civic Engagement Director for the Pittsburgh chapter of the H. Philip Randolph Institute, and I'll keep my remarks very brief. First of all, I do want to congratulate all the partners here, and can we just give ourselves a round of applause, because obviously we don't always get, we don't always, get wins like this, and we a lot of times we don't get thanked for the work that we do. I want to especially acknowledge our county executive, Rich Fitzgerald, whose amazing leadership on this issue, trying to find ways to give folks identification and being the most outspoken critic of the law in Western Pennsylvania. Can we give Rich Fitzgerald a round of applause? Just to echo what Reverend Ware said, this issue isn't done yet, obviously. We still have work to do between now and November 6th, between now and October 9th to get people registered, and after that to make sure people exercise their constitutional right and participate in this important election. And then after that, obviously, we have the work to do to make sure that this never becomes the law of the land in Pennsylvania. While we support the injunction for now, I think we all agree that in 2013 we have to do the good work to make sure this law is repealed, and no Pennsylvania ever has these type of barriers put between them and the voting booth moving into the future. The last thing I'll say is that on behalf of the A. Philip Randolph Institute, I do want to invite everyone to the August Wilson Center at 7 p.m. on Saturday night, where the Reverend Al Sharpton and many other local leaders, including the County Executive Rich Fitzgerald and Vic Walczak from the ACLU, and a number of other representatives will be speaking and giving us an update on issues related to this and the importance of getting registered before Tuesday and the importance of protecting people's vote on November 6th. That's another piece that we need to talk about, is election protection and voter protection. So come out to August Wilson Center on Saturday. October the 6th at 7 p.m. And that will just be another stage in this process as we move forward to October 9th and November 6th. So I applaud everyone here in all their efforts, and I'm very proud and humbled to be a part of this movement. Thank you.
All right. Jamal Craig from United Steelworkers.
Again, thanks to everyone for being here today. This is exciting times for us. On behalf of our International President Leo Gerard, our International Vice President Fred Redmond, it's good to be here. We have enjoyed working with this coalition in beating this effort back. But we know, being in the trenches, that there's some forces out there that won't stop.
That's true.
Until our voices are silent. So as we celebrate today, let us be mindful that our work is not done and that we have to be as united as ever as we move forward. And we have to work diligently to turn out voters, to get people involved and engaged in the democratic process, and that is something that we will do. We won't stand down. We won't take a day off. We're going to move forward. And as soon as we have accomplished the task of mobilizing voters to participate in the process on November 6th, we'll take a day off. We'll celebrate again. We'll look around, high five, and smile. And then we'll be right back in the trenches to make sure, as Kahari said, that this kind of suppression of democracy is gone forever. Thank you.
We have one other person to comment. I'm going to bring Celeste Taylor up before Mr. Fitzgerald to share some of the specific things that we'll be doing with the Black Political Empowerment Project and our partners throughout the region. And she is our voting rights community organizer, my sister in the struggle. Give a hand to Celeste Taylor.
Wow, this is certainly what solidarity and democracy looks like. How about that? Woo! I've had the pleasure of being able to work with most of you here. This is a good day, but as many of you said, the work is not over. I really would like to honor all those that have come before us in this movement. All the blood, sweat, and tears, and the shoulders we stand on. Many times our rights aren't given to us by the courts. It takes a movement of we the people behind it. We are grateful for the legal leadership and all the organizations that have taken part. Certainly the plaintiffs deserve credit as well. It's not easy to be a part of these lawsuits. So in the spirit of the struggle continues, we all will do our jobs to make sure that our people continue to vote in each and every election. In this important election, to not have this suppression, this impediment, is just critical. BPEP and our nonpartisan partners have begun election protection. We will sign up 400 volunteers. Educate, empower, and protect. I want to show you it's not a fashion statement. I'm sure you can still hear me if I move up. It's not the fall trend to have a black and white smock on that says you have the right to vote. And to call this number, 1-866-OUR-VOTE, 1-866-687-8683. But what it does do is let the community know that we have their back. Right. If they have any problems, they can call that hotline number. So as the BPEP Voting Rights Community Organizer and a lifelong member of the NAACP and a member of the Pennsylvania Voter ID Coalition, and just as a human, a citizen of this great nation, I am so excited about being able to forge ahead and protect the rights of voters and have the movement. The movement is at the polls. Right. Occupy the polls.
Occupy the polls. Can we all say that? Occupy the polls. One of our volunteers, Janet Ammons. My eyeballs went to the wrong place. Janet Ammons had something on her heart she wanted to share, then we're going to bring up our county exec.
I just wanted to emphasize that that being registered precedes being able to vote, and that's the important first step, and we're attempting to do so at community college. And I also wanted to mention that being registered not only enables one to vote in the presidential election, but also in all the government elections that precede it. And the electorate will be able to keep in mind all those who initiated these procedures in the first place and what parties they belong to, and can vote accordingly.
Thank you. Thank you. Also, I wanted to acknowledge Ken Miller, who's been just passion on wheels about helping to coordinate the registration of community college students. And his feeling is that they are the future leaders of Allegheny County and even possibly of this nation. And by putting into their minds early the importance of being registered, the importance of voting, the importance of having an effect on the policies that affect their current lives and their future lives is powerful. And he's been, let's give him a hand, Mr. Ken Miller, right over here. He's been phenomenal on that. I wanted to acknowledge, often we criticize people in political leadership, and sometimes that's appropriate. But it's also appropriate to acknowledge those who are trying to do the right thing. We had a meeting weeks ago with Rich Fitzgerald. We had one before the election. We had one afterward. And he committed certain things that he wanted to see the black community move toward. He also committed recently to the Rooney Rule, the initiative by Dan Rooney. And he's used that rule. Doesn't mean that every new person in a position is going to be African American or a person of color or a woman. It means they're going to be considered. That's right. He made that commitment. He made it more than once. And two of his four key commitments, new appointments, are African American, including the new warden of the county jail. Also, he not only spoke out against the bill, he and his team attempted to do something about it. I want to introduce, note that he needs an introduction, the county exec for Allegheny County, Mr. Rich Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Bill. It's great to be among so many friends. It really is. And friends that go back a long way. Celeste and I, our kids started in school together. Our 21 and 22-year-old kids when they were in kindergarten. And I guess I do feel a little old because I've known Alice Thompson since she was, I think, 5 years old when she started at kindergarten at Liberty School with my daughter. So I am old. I don't know who's old, but I'm old. That's what it means. And it's funny, my neighbor Cheryl and I talked about this at our block party just a couple of weeks ago, what our strategy was going to be moving forward. And I really need to thank, first of all, John DeFazio with the Steelworkers. John is on the, give him a hand, he deserves it. John is the chair of the Allegheny County Election Board, and John led the fight to file suit to kind of join with the ACLU and the BPEP and others who filed suit, and obviously were successful. But then I also want to thank the law department and many experts in election law who kind of came up with the idea that our community college and our Kane regional centers were eligible to give out voting IDs. And Dr. Alex Johnson, the president of community college, did a great job. As Tim indicated the other night, we had at the community college in Homewood, we were giving out voter IDs, and Mayor Masloff availed herself to that ability to get down there and get that ID. Obviously, we're delighted that we don't have to do it for the next 4.5 weeks. It's about time that they're doing the right thing. But it's not over yet. It's the way I read it, a temporary injunction just for this election.
That's correct.
And elections are about participation.
That's what they should.
And we want everybody to participate. And as the county executive who runs elections in at least just one county in Pennsylvania, we want to make sure that everybody who is eligible to vote has the right to vote, and we make it easy on them to vote. We don't want to put up enough hoops and enough barriers to people to jump through and jump over to go and vote. It's a special day. I love election day. Whether it's a presidential election, a local election, a statewide election, whatever it be, it's the one day you have a chance to have your voice heard. Right. And most people, after they cast that ballot and they walk out of that voting booth, they feel good. They feel good that their voice was heard. They feel like they're a good citizen, that they've participated in democracy. It's an important thing. Reverend, you said something very good, something that really should resonate. They wouldn't be trying to take it away from you if it didn't have any value.
That's exactly right.
And our vote has a lot of value. Yes, so I actually think what has happened by the suppression initiative that was tried, I think it woke up a sleeping giant.
I think it did.
I think you got people. That's it. You got people Galvanized. When you try to take something away from people that is their American right, I think people are going to put up a little bit of a fight. And I use the word "little bit," obviously sarcastically. A lot of a fight. And I think a lot of the people that have been that are here today, standing in the trenches, been fighting this fight for a long, long time, will continue to do it. So we got to make sure we continue to make sure people have the right to vote, they have access to vote, they get out and vote, and we make it easy to vote. So good luck. Thanks for everybody's work, and we'll continue to work together on this.
Now, he said something important. He said everything was important, of course. But the gentleman I'm going to bring up as we conclude, we were talking this morning. You know what one of our concerns is? Sometimes things have double-edged swords. The double-edged sword of this, at least temporary victory, is that some folks may not have the same fire for the next 5 weeks. We cannot do that. We must keep the fire. Because what I was saying to Luther Sewell, LJS Publications, is 50-year businessman, by the way, 50-year black businessman in Pittsburgh. Give him a hand.
All right.
What I said to him was, we sometimes lose our energy. We get fired up because we're upset. This bill upset people. People will walk up to me in Home Depot, Giant Eagle, Staples, where I'm at all the time, and say, what about this bill? And in some ways, as Rich Fitzgerald said, I think it kind of woke folks up. We must, as activists,
stay woke.
Keep the eyeballs open as we walk into the polls, as we occupy the polls on November 6th. Luther Sewell has a couple events coming up that we'll be partnering with, and give him a hand for his leadership and his wife's leadership. Roxanne, come and stand beside your husband. They are a phenomenal team, and I mean that in every letter, whatever. Come on. Every letter in phenomenal.
Thank you, Tim, and I'd like to congratulate those who have worked so diligently on this project. But on the 11th and 12th of this month, we will be in Harrisburg with our African American Latino Roundtable. And we will be partnering with the Hispanic community to try to push political education throughout the state. Secondly, on November 3rd, here at the Hill House, we will have a Get Out to Vote rally. So we would like to contact every organization to participate in that rally. It's important that we get out to vote. All of this might dampen us, but let's motivate our people to get out to vote. Last election in 2008, we voted 62% in the major black wards in Pittsburgh. We have to vote 70%. That's our goal. And we hit 70%, we will have a winner as far as the person we prefer to be elected as president. Thank you.
All right. We're going, don't forget the mission of BPEP. You know, it's a slogan, but it's a mission. It's a lifetime commitment, not just when there's a Barack Obama running or an Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or whoever's exciting us at the moment. Even when there's all white candidates, one candidate is more in our interest than another. And we must all remember that. Even though our mission is that African Americans vote in each and every election, the commitment as BPEP is that every voter of whatever race, creed, or color vote in each and every election and empower the process. Lastly, I want, as an individual, not only as the founder of BPEP, but as an individual, I want whoever is to be elected on November 6th, I want to be able to wake up on the 7th and feel that whoever that was actually the choice of the majority of citizens of the United States. Right. That no one was blocked. Right. No one was blocked in providing their input into this process. That's un-American. This bill, as far as I'm concerned, is un-American. Thank you all for being here. The commitment now is the work that we will be doing for my various organizations to register folks for this next week, election protection, to get out the vote from all angles of everybody participating and working together. Let's make it work. Let's have a phenomenal turnout in our various communities. Thank you so much.